maybe a bit older, but more stable distribution like CentOS or even Debian. If I want something new, I can use Fedora or even Arch Linux. It's a rolling release, that's everything new. But what if I want to have both on the same system? Like, how can I use half CentOS, half Fedora, for example? We have containers. How many of you heard about containers? Almost everyone. Docker. OK, good. So just for the few of you who don't know, containers are technology to isolate user space in Linux. So you can have, for example, Fedora user space on Ubuntu, right? And all the applications running in containers are isolated from others. So that's one of the options how to solve it. But for example, not everything runs in containers. So this is a problem. And another one is, I call it software versus hardware. So yeah, you might use some stable older distribution like CentOS, but you want a new hardware, and the old kernel and all the old drivers don't support the new hardware. And if you remember, the distributions update as one thing, so it's very hard to run an older distribution on a new hardware. So these are the two problems, and modularity will solve both. Yeah. So before I start explaining modularity, any questions so far? All right. So with modularity, as I said, I didn't say, we are building smaller pieces. So instead of building one distribution, for example, here on the left, you can see Fedora 25, Fedora 26, and you can choose like whichever you want, or even CentOS, or even Ubuntu. But you can't have like half, if you like. So we are trying to break the distribution into smaller pieces. We call them modules. And they will be provided in multiple versions. So I can have web server in version 2.2 and in 2.6. And I can run like any of these together. So it also gives you a like higher overview of what is available in the distro. So in the classical one, there are just packages, right? And that's it. But here we have components. So you don't have to deal with packages directly. You can use these components. And when I said versions, I kind of lied, because they are called streams. And that means that they are not just versions. You can have, for example, HTTPD, which is a web server. And you can have one stream that is 2.6, another one which is 2.4. But you can always also have like a rolling release of that module. So it can follow upstream, and it can be stable. So streams are basically kind of like versions, but not really. And they might have different goals. So they can be bound to a version. They can be of various stability. And when I say stability, there are two things called stability. So let's explain. For example, one is, I don't know, you have a Firefox, some development build, and it just keeps crashing, right? So that you would say it's not stable. So that's one stability. But the other one is you have an application with an API. And if you update it, the API might change and break your stuff. And that's also not stable. Even the application will never crash. The API keeps changing, so that's not stable. So there are two things. So the last two examples, for example, I can be following upstream, so this won't be one version. This can be any version that's just the newest one, but it'll be stable. In a sense, it won't crash, but it won't be stable in a sense that it won't break things because of the API. And I can also have like development streams and anything I want. So how does this work? So I will just show you basic overview of the build pipeline, or about the main concept of how users can use. So we have 3 steps. So in first, we build the modules. And when I say we, I mean people from the community contributing to the distribution. Then we ship artifacts. Why artifacts, I'll show you later. And then users can just choose whatever they want and deploy it as they like. So step 1. How many of you heard about Git? Version control system. Almost everyone. Good. So Git as a system is a, as I said, version control system for your software, and you can track changes in your code. You can have multiple branches with multiple versions. So we use the same thing. We call it dist-git as a distribution git. And we keep all the packages from the distribution in this git, all the sources. And they have multiple versions, multiple branches, because we have one for Fedora 26, one for Fedora 27. And here, we will be changing these two versions. So we can have web server with branch 2.2 and 2.6. So this is the source code, and in this step, we're just building it into binary. So there's this thing called module.md, which is just definition of the module. So I can say I want to have a web server version 2.2, and I want this package in this stream, and this package in this one. So it gets built, and we have the binaries, but they are not very usable. They are just binaries somewhere, and we need to make them into usable binaries. So we call them artifacts in Fedora. And what it is basically we just take the module and make it into something consumable. So this might be containers, as you can see on the top, or just RPM packages. They can be even Flatpaks, which are like containers for query application, and I don't know, Debian packages are another type of artifact. So we can convert each module into multiple artifacts and make it usable for the users. So they can just choose whatever they want. So I can say I want a web server of version 2.2 running along with database version 2.0 and run it on Fedora Atomic, which is a version of Fedora for running containers. I can run it OpenShift, which is a platform as a service, orchestration of containers, if you want to run containers on multiple nodes. Or there is the new thing we are just developing, and it's called Boltron Server, Fedora 26 Boltron Server. And that's our modular prototype, which I'll be describing in a minute. So this is the whole workflow. As I said, we build modules, we ship artifacts, and users can deploy it as they like. So that's how we go from source to multiple versions of things you can run. Right, any questions so far? All right, so let's have a look how the project is going, how far we are. So the Fedora 26 Boltron is our prototype that we'll be releasing in like, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. It's coming out with Fedora 26. And it's a prototype. It's the first usable thing we will produce for everyone to try. So we would love to get some feedback. And we will be including these components. So there will be some system services. We have 4 databases, some basic languages like Perl, Node.js, PHP, and Python 2 and Python 3, which is kind of light, but not too much, because they won't be in the separate modules, but they will be included. And we have web servers, some developer tools, and a shared user space, which is just a set of common libraries. And the goal of the Boltron release is to get feedback, because to build all of this, we don't do it just on laptops, right? We are having infrastructure. So we have to modify the infrastructure to be able to build the modules, because, for example, in Fedora, we use a system called Koji, which builds individual packages. But we want to build the modules. So we had to create something called module build service that orchestrates the builds in Koji. Another thing is client tooling. So we have DNF. You can install DNF, install anything. But it was working only with packages. And we want to be working with modules. So we need to get feedback on this. Excuse me. And also, there's been a lot of work in creating the modules themselves by packagers, by developers. And it's been kind of pain, but we're getting better. And yeah, we want feedback on this as well. And the overall validation of modularity will be part of this. What you don't see is, for example, updates, which is a goal for the next stage. So really, the Boltron release will be just to validate things, nothing useful really. But if you want to give us feedback, that would be great. And the future will be that we want to create arbitrary branching. That means that we want to, as I said, provide multiple versions, which is not possible right now in a clean way. So that'll be one of the next goals. Updates. There's a lot of things. Because, for example, as I said, you have modules with different streams, and different streams make different promises, so there must be tests that ensure that nothing breaks if you say it won't break. And we will target wider adoption of the whole release. Any questions so far? All right, so that was kind of quick. Just something about the project. So how do we operate? It's an open source project, and anyone is welcome to join. I would love if you could, for example, show up on a meeting or just ask questions. So we have meeting every Tuesday. It's 16 to 17 p.m. It's in the European time zone. That's very important to say because we have people around the world contributing. And there's always fun with time zones. And we also have normal IRC channel that we just talk all the day about things, how we do. And if you want to follow, these are the options. So the first, as I said, is IRC channel. It's on Freenode. You can just come in, ask questions, and basically anything. The other one is mailing list. It's not our mailing list. It's just a general Fedora developer mailing list. We have a documentation on this very strange URL. That was my idea, and I'm not very happy with it, but that's how it is. And you can go there, read everything. We have resources to our Git repositories if you want to see the code and everything. One interesting is that every member of our team is also a YouTuber, very famous YouTuber. No, I'm kidding. And we do every 2 weeks reviews of the work we did and of we plan. And also, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we don't have a Twitter account, but you can follow me, and I will post everything important about the project. And that's basically everything about modularity. So, do you have any questions? Would you like to join? Would you like to help? Yeah, I can see question in the back. Yeah. We'll get you a mic.
Hello. Yeah, well, I have a question regarding dependencies of modules between themselves and artifacts. I'm actually using modules, but not with Fedora every day, and I have problems with dependencies, especially if I have development tools in modules. Then there is an implicit dependency, which is not, well, you find it out only when you actually build stuff. Did you take this into account?
So the question was if you're adding a package to Fedora, there is a missing dependency, or if you install something?
The question is if you are using, for example, 2 different modules, and the artifacts within them are dependent on each other.
Oh, right, yeah.
Or if you're using 2 build tools, which are from same or from different modules, and in order to build something, and then you find out that they're not compatible because the dependency was not taken into account.
All right, so the dependencies can be dealt with the same way as RPMs, so the modules can depend on each other, but you can also include dependencies in your modules. So this basically brings the same concept like Android apps or iPhone apps. So if you install a module, it will have anything it needs in itself, basically. So if you're a packager, you can add your libraries of your version. If you're a user, everything will be contained in that. And this is good for example, if you want to install two different versions of something and they have the same shared library but with different version, they can just separate it. So did that answer your question? Okay. Any more questions? Yeah?
Yes, how does this compare to something like Nix or GNU GUIX for package management?
Yeah, so the concept might be the same, but we will be using For example, there is Alpine, which is like very small distribution for building containers, but it hasn't got the full implementation of the C library, for example. They have something different. So we'll be using the normal packages from Fedora, and this is also about the build pipeline that will ensure that everything is built and updated. So basically, yeah, the concept might be the same, but you get the packages and everything you need from distribution and the support with it. Any more questions? Okay, so thanks for coming. That was very short. And if you want to join. I'll be happy to show you more, or just find me and I can show you maybe even some demos or something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adam. We'll just have a few minutes until we prepare the next presentation. Okay. Sad ćemo samo da prebacimo svoju prezentaciju.